Hey guys, I'm Jasmine. I'm going to be continuing the presentation for Group 5 asynchronously, so hopefully this video is making its way to the class. Now, Gould introduces a lot of characters in this section of the reading, many of them considered the highest educated men of the time. But why do these old white men carry so much weight with their data of findings and truthfully their opinions? So the first character and the biggest one would be Paul Braca. Now, Paul Braca was considered a prodigy. He graduated med school by the age of 20. He held multiple degrees in physical sciences and mathematics, but he focused on neurology and anthropology. He very much liked to put trinkets on skulls, just as the one you're seeing in this presentation. He actually created some of his own tools similar to help him in his studies. Now, by studying aphasia, which is a speech impediment in the brain, if I understand it correctly, he proved that there was a connection between speech and the left frontal region of the brain, and thereby proving cerebral localization overall. Other achievements include starting the first anthropological society in the world and being elected a permanent member of the French Senate. Now, in the other corner of the ring, we have Louis-Pierre Gratiolet. He was also born in France, and he was a zoologist and a professor at the University of Paris. He was a royalist, but you would think him egalitarian based on his very strong opposition to Braca's claims, but a royalist anyhow. He argued that brain size didn't correlate to intelligence because it was too subtle of a quality to have any direct relationship. Now, through his studies, he noted that sulci, fissures, and other creases in the brain deepened as you looked at more and more complex primates, humans being the most complex overall. So he also notably identified the optic radiation in the brain. Next up, we have the Hottentot Venus, Sarah Bartman. She was also known by a couple of their names. Hottentot was a derogatory term for the certain subset of people from Southwest Africa that she was from. She was also given the last name Bartman, which a Dutch translation said bearded, which implied savage and uncivilized. Cuvier, George Cuvier, actually created a cast of her body after she died. And it was actually on display for a very long time, as well as her brain and skull being studied. Rudolf Wagner, a German, discovered the germinal vesicle, and so a lot of his research was based in embryology and reproductive research. He was close friends with Gauss, which actually allowed him to study his brain firsthand, as well as a lot of other professors at the university where he worked in Germany. Now, next up, we have E.A. Spitzka. He was actually the only one introduced that was born in the US, and he was a child of a neurologist. He was a Columbia University grad, and like T. Bischoff, he studied the brains of assassins, which is why they're grouped together. So Bischoff was a German, and he studied 119 assassins after Braca's death. So Braca didn't get to evaluate his data. Although much of his career was focused on embryology. He was a member of many academic committees throughout his career, and he fiercely opposed any woman joining the academic community. Braca's successor, Paul Topinard, I would love if one of you attempted to pronounce this, but it translates to, I abhor systems, especially a priori systems, which seems to go against the idea, if I'm understanding its definition in Gould's context. Like many of these characters, he compared characteristics between apes and Africans and other races that were considered inferior. He specifically ranked humans on a linear scale of mental worth. And in his research, Gould points out that he more so tried to find examples of people that would fit this mold rather than looking at the research objectively and rebranding based on that idea. Tiedemann, on the other hand, argued for no notable differences between the structure of the brains of Africans, women, and white Europeans. There were no notable differences. Certainly none that would correlate with intelligence. So Cassandra will now present exactly what data each of these men were throwing into the argument over brains and intelligence. Oh,